Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, directed by George Miller, stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. As the world fell, young Furiosa is snatched from the green place of many mothers and falls into the hands of a great biker horde led by the Warlord Dementus. Sweeping through the wasteland, they come across the Citadel, presided over by the Immortan Joe. While the two tyrants war for dominance, Furiosa must survive many trials as she puts together the means to find her way home. When I was about 12, as a birthday event, I went to see Mad Max Fury Road with a bunch of my friends at the time, and I know for a fact it blew my little mind away. It opened the door to what cinema could be capable of, and I was in complete awe from start to finish. So when I heard they were making a prequel to that film, at first, admittedly, I was nervous, but as soon as that teaser dropped, my nerves swiftly went away, and I've been really excited to see this movie. For a change, I want to talk about how this film is structured, because it was definitely interesting to me. While Fury Road had a clear two-parter said by George Miller himself, the first half being a chase and the second half being a race, this film opts to tell a full-on journey through the life of Furiosa. And what surprised me is that we see Furiosa basically as a kid for what felt like the first hour or even hour and a half of this film. And I'm not saying this as a complaint, it's more so a surprise, as I thought going into this we would see her being taken as a child and all of those events in the first 20 minutes, and that would be it. When we eventually get to Anya Taylor-Joy, I thought she was pretty good in this role. I'll ignore appearances, as in theory it is odd to see this version of Furiosa compared to Theron's version, but I suppose everyone changes with age, so it's not something to complain about. She does a pretty good job here. She gives this energy of determination while remaining completely stoic throughout her time on screen. I'm glad they didn't take her character as being incompetent and inexperienced to seeing her grow into the badass in which she's portrayed as in Fury Road. This film maintains the fact that she has always been a force to be reckoned with. Chris Hemsworth puts in a career-defining role here. I can totally see this being the beginning of his transition from pretty boy actor to freak actor. His character Dementus is just so delightfully sadistic. He eats up every scene he's in and knows how to handle the role so well. I was worried during the second act of this movie, as at first I thought they were going to make him an anti-hero, but when I realized why he was acting the way he was, essentially out of personal gain for himself, it made a lot more sense. I love the look of the character. There's a point where he gets covered in this red mist and it stains his hair and beard for a period of the film, and I thought it looked really cool there. He's one of those villains you find really cool, but manages to be pretty threatening at the same time. The whole film, you're basically waiting to see just how Furiosa enacts her revenge on him. The story is very well written. Like I said before, it's a very different vibe than Fury Road. This film knows how to be patient with its scenes, and while there's a lot of action and chases, they're more spread out in favour of character development and world building, which is really appreciated to see. There's lots of areas we haven't seen in the Wasteland before, so seeing it being expanded upon is really interesting. But how is the action in this film? Well, it's done really well here too. It's incredibly exciting, and there's a good few impressive stunts and set pieces going on. I particularly loved this whole sequence where they're driving the war rig and it just keeps getting attacked and they have to defend it. While I liked most of the action in this film, I do have to unfortunately say I didn't love it as much as all the action and stunts performed in Fury Road, for the sole reason that these action scenes are clear to be less practical than Fury Road. Fury Road has gathered the reputation of having an infamous, grueling production, so I understand George Miller being hesitant in not wanting to repeat incidents like this. And listen, I'm not an idiot. I know in Fury Road I'm not saying the level of practical effects are Oppenheimer level, but from watching that film and seeing behind the scenes of it, you can tell at least a good 80% of what's happening on screen is real. So it pains me to say that in Furiosa, I think it's more so 50% real and 50% CGI. Even the scene I mentioned really liking, I was almost on the edge of my seat watching it, and then it cuts to a shot that's clearly on a green screen and it took me out of it for a second. For some reason, a lot of the time in this film, when we see those guys fully painted in white with black over their eyes, they in general just look a lot more fake in this film. They look more polished and as if someone went into Photoshop and polished them up. Unless this is the intention to show that years ago these people looked a lot more cleaner rather than the cracked skin they have in Fury Road. It was very jarring to say the least. That's the best way I can describe CGI in this film. Whenever it cuts to a scene against a green screen using CGI, to a scene that's practical, and then back again, it just gets very jarring when it happens as frequently as it does in the action scenes. I noticed as well, they didn't even utilize this solely for action scenes. There will be moments where characters will be standing around talking, and you can see it just looks off. So that was pretty jarring and weird, and while I understand why they had to do this, it's still a little disappointing. And while I think many aspects of this film is pretty incredible, I don't think it nearly reaches the level of Fury Road. There's absolutely a place for both films to exist, there's no question about that, but I personally prefer Fury Road more than this. The cinematography in this film is excellent, it's really gorgeous to look at, there are so many really good looking shots. The colors in this film are beautiful as well, and while this film has a clear different color grading to Fury Road, it still looks really cool here. There's a lot of frames that are so aesthetically pleasing to look at, which is good to see this level of consistency still be present in the franchise. Overall, I really like this film. It was always going to be hard to top Fury Road, and I don't think that was ever the intention making this film. There's never a moment where it feels like they're trying to outdo the set pieces and action scenes of that film. And while that might disappoint some people, I didn't mind it because it's clear the Mad Max franchise kind of disregards the sole idea of a franchise, at least in terms of continuity. You can argue that there is a continuity of the franchise, but as these films go on, they feel more like cinema folklore, different tales that people in the wasteland will tell each other 100 years from now. And I really like the idea of recontextualizing this world with every new installment. They're apparently making another prequel to Fury Road, and it will basically be a story about Max before the events of that film, so I'm definitely excited to see what they do with that. I'm giving Furiosa a Mad Max Saga 4.5 stars. It may not be better than Fury Road, but I still think it's an incredible feat in filmmaking. There's really entertaining action, some very good acting from all the cast involved. Its use of more heavy visual effects and CGI may disappoint and annoy some fans of the previous film. However, as these moments are very strange to look at, they're not awful. They're just kind of weird looking. And honestly, having something looking weird in a Mad Max movie is no stranger to this franchise at all. But other than that, I think this is a really great and worthy installment in a pretty insane collection of films.
If you're a fucking fair dinkum fucking full-grown Aussie, this is what you'd have for breakfast, you fucking dog cunts. A fucking VB long neck.